Hi everyone, it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you tonight and a total privilege. Welcome everyone to MACFEST 2023, the Muslim Women's Art Festival tonight. My name is Dr. Becky Alexis Martin. I've had the privilege of joining MACFEST for several years now and watching it flourish and grow. And the photography events hold a special place in my heart. So tonight we're celebrating International Women's Week, woo, with Maha Alasaker talking about issues of culture and identity. So I just can't wait to hear what she has to say about it. I know a little bit about her work and it is just absolutely amazing. And in the way it kind of connects space, identity, culture, it's so meaningful. So please connect, comment, ask questions either in the chat or the Q7A portal, and we'll answer them at the end today. And tell us where you're watching from as well. This is an international festival of art and culture. We love to know where you're coming from. So it would be amazing to hear from you. So get in touch with us. And if you're watching us on replay, leave your comments underneath the video. On behalf of MACFEST, thank you for all your donations, big and small. We appreciate them all, and they help us to run these unique and wonderful events for you. And so please join us on our events. Most of them are free, and it's a really enriching experience for everybody who takes part. You can follow MACFEST, a Muslim Arts and Women's Arts Foundation, on social media. On Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. So we're very social media friendly. And if you want to tag us, the hashtag is spread honey, not hate. And so now, over to you, Maha Alasaker. It's a pleasure to meet you. How are you doing today? It's so good to have you here tonight.
Hi, hi everybody. I'm very excited to have this opportunity to speak to everybody. I'm excited. I'm always excited to have this kind of conversation that usually help me to reflect even in my personal life. And yeah, I'm excited to explore and discuss together.
It's going to be a really good night, and I'm so excited to learn more about your art. I'm familiar with some of your amazing photography work, but I understand you're also into mixed media nowadays, which is just fantastic. So do you have a talk or anything that, well, I think you have a talk that you'd like to share with us, or some images maybe?
Yeah, so maybe we can, I could start with like sharing some of my recent work, and the first one we will start with is Self is Still Life. If we can have these images there. And for me, my work, it's always about, like when I started, it's always about identity. I mean, identity is a very big question, but like, when you don't fit within your environments and you try to figure out your voice. So there is two elements that's always coming, like looking at and like the gaze from other and my gaze toward them. And for example, this image, it's kind of the reverse, where I am the one who's taking the power. There is also a lot of hiding and covering and uncovering, because the way how society and religion sometimes like project on us, like to look at a certain way and to cover your body, to cover your face. Like it's always kind of control over the female body. We can look at the next image. And so in this work, what I'm doing is, can we go to the, yeah. So in this work, I'm also using kind of different idea of like the self and the mirror. So these are like portraits of myself. I printed it and then collage them and create like these still life. It's kind of like a sculpture, and then I take one picture and then I destroy that sculpture that I created. It's kind of about having control and losing control. So what's remaining is the evidence of this culture that I created, or the collage that I created. Next. So, you know how like the person change with time and you evolve and you reach the point where you think you know yourself, and then things happen and then you just feel lost again. There is like the duality that I always face, like the things between living true to myself or true to my society. I use a lot of references of roots, like, and using like the old school of simplism because of my limitations in expressing, like, how can I talk about sexuality without talking, like, without the nude? So I reference a lot of these images in my work. Next. Yeah, so let me see. Can we go to the, yeah. So there is like these, the three of me, the hiding, the like, so I try to talk about that, the confusion that happened with you changing with time. I'm a kind of a person who goes inward a lot. I talk to myself a lot. I'm very curious, and I like to understand why people do certain things, and how societies and how people follow the rules. And there's the people who doesn't follow the rules, and happiness and struggle. So yeah, so all these kind of concepts like were in this work. I don't know if you have any question for me, or do you want me to go to the next project?
I just think they're amazing. I just want to say we've got to this point, and I find the way that you've kind of represented and depicted female sexuality is just so elegant and so clever. And I love the way that you've kind of engaged with the hidden and the seen and the invisible, and womanhood as well. I wanted to ask you about that and kind of how you feel women are seen or maybe not seen, and how that's reflected in your own work as well. If you could elaborate a bit more.
I mean, living in like, so I live within the Gulf, within the Middle East, where there is a lot of censorships that I think it doesn't make sense. Like, there is a lot of policing about what person could see or not see, and there's no freedom in expression, like when you go with art. And it's very funny because like everybody can go to the internet and see everything. So you are policing in an old school where the words now become close to like a 10 years old kids with their iPhone. So I always struggled about this kind of concept of censoring. I think my reality was when I discovered that any work that I do, I always think of what my mom would say, and it caught me because she's the most important person in my world, and I thought that I worked in a place where there is like, where I thought that I am free, but I realized that I still censor my ship toward like my mom and my family, and it took me like a journey to figure out how can I tackle with this issue of censoring. Like, there is a self-censor even when you think you are free. It kind of caught me in surprise, but then the way how I start to think about it is, how can I make work where the other can see me, can see it? So I don't want to show whatever, that's my dog. Try to.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I was trying to figure out how can I speak to the other, and how can so I took it also like kind of game of like censoring. So it's like, how can I censor myself, but also say all what I want to do, and how can I work within my limitations? And yeah, this is how, so I use the representations of fruits, of fabric. Most of my work is staged. I think a lot of the elements that will be there. And recently, I'm also using words and in my work.
It's so clever, literally. You can really see the subalternity kind of pushing through in that. Like the way that you've kind of represented and depicted and staged these amazing fine art images is just, it's sublime. I feel so privileged to be able to share your work tonight. So would you like to share some more with us?
Yes. Yeah. So I like let's look at the next project. And so I start talking mostly and recently about the body, about how us as women, like us as a human, we carry our body with us all the time. We cannot function in this life without the body. But my body belonged to my family owners. So my body belonged to the ownership, the owner of my family. So women like being programmed since they're younger, like to protect the body, to no one get close to it. There's no information how to connect with our own body. Women, they get married and they have no knowledge about their sexuality. And I start to think about that. So this work called A Trapped Called the Body, and how something that it is very personal become very public, and how my choices that I want to do in my body, it doesn't belong to me, it's belong to my whole tribe. So yeah, so that's the work. And then I told you, like, I'm playing with the covering and uncovering and the element of the fruits in that. We can go to the next one.
I love that.
And you will see through this work that I don't show my face. It's my body. It's like hiding, and it's trying like to like the extension of my hair going there, and I'm trying to raise question regarding yeah, the body. Who owns the body? Who has the last call about what will happen or what will not happen? We can go to the next one. You know, sometimes like the more you hide something, the more you try to find a way to get what you want. So I believe that our society that has like the double standards and like not knowing, a lot of teenagers and even like people in their 20s, they try harder, and it shouldn't be that way. The body should be like embraced, like all the indigenous cultures. They embrace the body. Like the only reason why women are censored is just because we can bring kids to the world, and the society just want to control that. That's the difference between a man and woman. We just can't have babies. Next. Yeah, talking about the fabric, that depending on where are you from, you always need to be covered. There is a lot of culture where women, they're covered not because of the religion, it's just because this is the way how they grow up. Next. Yeah. Like, if you have also any question for me, like, I think I said everything I can say.
This one is brilliant, and I love the ways you've kind of the way you've kind of depicted yourself, as you said, from behind. It adds an element of kind of every woman to it as well. And I'm sure that our audience are kind of having, you know, that they must have familiar kind of, it must provoke familiar feelings or familiar understandings of those experiences of womanhood that you've described. So I've got some questions from the audience, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So Shariah, I hope I pronounced that right, wanted to know what the black and the white images signified that you showed earlier, the amazing ones where you've got kind of some cover to your face. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about them, if that's okay?
So that's about the first project, right? Self-still life.
Yeah. So
correct. Yeah. So in that work, I was like questioning like the identity and between the way how you see yourself and the way how society see you, and the way how you change with time, and the questions surrounded by sorry, just give me 1 second. Just 1 second. I'm so sorry. And the question like that's raised within that, I'm also questioning like once you take the portrait and then, I mean, cutting once you take the portrait and you start to cut your face into a fragment, then it's more about the whole self. Regarding that one, it's more about death and you know how women sometimes being killed, like honor killing, or how a lot of women need to struggle just to be the way how they want to be. So like having half of my face there is a hope, but like to be so for me to be myself, it's I fought for everything, nothing giving for me. My family wasn't the same mind of me, so since I was teen, I was like always fight for more than what is given to me, and it's a shame that we still till this time we fight for small little things.
That's incredibly profound, and I agree. I think your work adds to that kind of great body of feminist work by women who are artists as well. It's very powerful. I was just looking at your images and thinking they're somewhere between Frida Kahlo and Man Ray, and I just love them. They're amazing. And we're getting.
I love that you're talking about, because these are like Man Ray is like my he's my biggest fan. I'm like I love his images and the way how he challenged society and how he, you know, he was free to experiment and things that no one thought about. Yeah, he's like one of my favorite artists.
Good. You can tell it comes through your work, and I'd say it's like, you know, a lot of your images are kind of contemporary. It's got a similar feel, even though it's completely new, radical, and interesting, and feminist ideas. So I was going to ask you another question from the conversation, actually. So Jack Nunn, sorry, wants to know: do you find that your representations of female censorship are niche to the culture of the Middle East, or do you try and make them applicable to Western culture?
I feel like, although I am a Middle Eastern woman, but I'm also a very modern woman, and I think the way my work, if you look at my work, it's very modern, it's very contemporary, because of the way how is my life. The censorships is just like, you know, a situation that I am dealing with because of like the geography. But I noticed that a lot of the things that I talk about, different people, like even Western women, relate to it in a way or in another, depending on their background.
Amazing. I totally agree. And mentioning backgrounds, actually, I think it's amazing. I think your images are so original, and it's rare to see such originality in photography. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you came to become the amazing, like, fine artist that you are, like, kind of what your roots were into photography, what pulled you towards it. So.
Well, for me, like it wasn't like a straight like path for me. I was fascinated with art early on in my life, and then in high school, I thought my sister is the coolest person, so I wanted to mimic her. So I was like, I love this to learn how to do makeup and look gorgeous, and I kind of ditched that, and because I was smart and from Middle East, what do you do? What you go to, like either engineering or to be a doctor, and I don't like blood, so I studied engineering, and I worked in investment for a while, and then like I feel like the major things that happened to me is losing my dad like very suddenly in 2006, and there was like a grief like I never experienced, like losing someone very close very fast, and my body couldn't handle it, and I didn't know what to do with that emotions. And the only time I start to feel life is when I put the camera in front of me. So a friend of my sister told me about like, why you don't do photography? And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, you can take pictures of this. And I even didn't think about it. And it started to be like my like Alice in Wonderland. I will look at things and express my feeling through images. And yeah, from there, I start with self-taught. I learned, I ask questions. I become like really obsessed with it. And in 2013, I saved my money and I went to New York City, and I wanted to study like fine art photography. So I went to International Center of Photography.
Amazing.
And yeah, and from there I start to pursue my career as an artist. I lived there for 6 years, and through that experience, I found my voice. I knew what I wanted to do. I do remember though that I had an interview after my first work undisclosed. It's really was like I did first project and a gallery wanted to represent me, which is like doesn't happen. So I thought, okay, I think I'm good. And I do remember that the journalists tell me like, oh yeah, you're a feminist. And I was like, no, I'm not a feminist. And and it was a debate. So it was a conversation. I was like really rejecting that. And then I started to think about it, and then I remembered that that word like were associated to a very amazing woman in the Middle East, like Nawal Sadawi, but like I heard all the women around me in my family curse them, and they said these women are like, you know, want to ruin Islam, ruin women. And I think there I just realized how much what is said around us is embedded within our bodies, and I was refusing the word. And then I realized like, no, I am a feminist. I have my voice. I know what to talk. I really grounded myself, like being away from home and trying to figure out myself. So when I found my voice, I decided to come back to Kuwait, because I know that there's a lot of women who can't speak up, and I found my voice. So I decided to come back and make work that speak to my society. That's why I'm trying to be smarter than censorship. And I managed to do an exhibition in Kuwait called My Name is Woman, and it was talking about virginity, about female body, but it was all within a way that people who who does disagree with me will look at it and question themselves.
Amazing. What an incredible act of solidarity and defiance. I love it. And just hearing your story of how you trained, it must be very inspiring for our audience, because I'm sure we have people, here today who are thinking about becoming an artist or a photographer and have maybe tried something else first. I just wanted to share some amazing comments that we've had. So Tala Patel has said that she feels that your work resonates with going against oppression as a British Indian woman, and that she feels as though she really relates to your work. Also, we've got several artists in the audience. Kat says, I love art with real meaning, loving the art of Maha. Isn't that fantastic? So you're getting a lot of appreciation today. And we've got artists and audience members from Coventry, France, the US, everywhere. So it was really nice. It must be quite interesting, actually, having that cultural hybridity, having lived in the US, having lived in Kuwait. And I was wondering, how much do you think kind of the influence of like cosmopolitanism and the world, a kind of more at large influence, affects your work? Or do you think it's kind of more of a reflection, particularly on the Middle East?
So I will just tell you something that, when I used to be like, I grown up and I went to public school, I lived in Kuwait, but always like people refer to me like, oh, you're so American. I'm not, I'm Kuwaiti, and I understand, but like, because I'm questioning things and I see the world through the internet, through the whole world is in front of you. And when I moved to the States, everybody there look at me like, oh, you're like the Arabian princess, you are like, and that shocked me, because like I couldn't fit here, I couldn't fit there. And that's why I always talk about identity. And then I realized that I am a modern woman, and I am the elephant, like the purple elephant that doesn't fit anywhere, and it's okay. The whole world, like living in a different places, will give you a different tools and understanding to the words. Like the conversation that I had with all the people I met in the state, like some place like New York, like that has like different cultures, a conversation, the way how everybody see life. I realized that my old way of seeing is very narrow. Even though I thought I am different than my society, I'm still like having a drop. So I'm very careful with what I look at. I'm very careful of who I surround myself with. I'm even very careful who I follow in Instagram and my social media, and I change the following between time to time, because I don't want to be like, because whatever you see, whatever you hear, it will affect you. And I'm very sensitive about that.
I think that's so important and very sensible. We've got some more cool questions, some really interesting ones, actually. From Fatima.
I think it's pausing here.
Oh, hello? Is it working?
There is also another.
Oh, hello? Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I'm back. Okay. Yeah, now I can hear you. Sorry for that.
No, that's fine. Are you ready to take some more questions?
Yeah, but also like there's one more project that I like to talk about.
Let's talk about this.
I don't know if you want to start the questions, or shall we just do one more, like
I think
my latest work?
Yes, please.
The period blanket.
That sounds absolutely amazing, and I got to see a little bit earlier and was just very impressed. Yeah.
So yeah, so Sorry, I'm having some issue. Yeah, so this is my latest work. Since 2019, I started also working with textile, with natural dye and embroidery. And in this work, so there's a relationship between women bleeding and society, and how when women bleed, the whole society is disturbed. So for example, when we get our period, like no one want to hear about it in a social setting. Like men get disgusted, and women might say overshared. There's a lot of people who have name to the period, so it's like instead of I got my period, they will said. So they will said, for example, I got that, and they call it a name. And when the woman menopause and stop bleeding, then she's old and she's like, like she's not like attracted sexually. Although all what happened is that she cannot bring kids anymore, but her sexuality is still high. And when a woman get married and she doesn't bleed in the first night, then she will be killed. So currently, I'm working on these kind of narrative about the blood and society and women, and this is like this is a blanket where I'm addressing all the scientific elements of how, like the four circles of okay, I forgot that word. So the four circles for the eggs, how to move in the female body, and I had can we go to the next image? And there's like a performance piece, because like I decided to do the blanket because when we get the period, we're just like want to be cozy, and there's a performance of me covering on this blanket and just resting. And yeah.
It's fantastic, and it's a very profound and thought-provoking piece. So amazing.
Thank you.
I love the movement. So yeah, no, absolutely brilliant. And I found the fabrics as well. And when we were chatting earlier, you were telling me a little bit about kind of dyeing and the processes of creating some of your fabrics as well. So
yeah, like since COVID and staying at home, like I started to work a lot with my hand because I have an anxiety, and I have like diagnosed an anxiety and depressions, and in order to keep things in order, I like self-taught myself how to do natural dye, and I have like all these pots and colors and embroidery, and through the lockdown, I learned new crafts. And for me now, I feel like different projects need different mediums, and I'm still like playing with the performance part, and but then using different kind of material that I do create.
amazing. And just I love the tactility of some of the images that you're showing. Like I know I'm probably not supposed to touch it because it's art, but you want to kind of feel the fabric. It's very human, and it really speaks to humanity, and I love that about what you're doing at the moment. I just think it's amazing to see someone who works across so many medias as well, photography, installations essentially, and fabrics, stitching, everything. Like I cannot wait to see what you do next. It's incredibly exciting. I'm going to be following your career with great interest. And
thank you.
And I think it's amazing as well that you've channeled, because we don't talk about mental health as women, and I know what it's like. I've had anxiety too, I found that getting behind a camera and myself doing kind of documentary photography helped to alleviate that for me in social situations, doing research. But I think that channeling and kind of recognizing that you needed something to kind of help, you know, work with your mental health, but also create this amazing statement about the women's body and embodiment and the cycle of life is just so empowering and just so clever. Really, it is.
Like I tapped into embroidery because of an anxiety. So my mom had breast cancer, and when I did my first mammogram, I was in America, and there was like, there in the system they do a lot of tests even if you don't need it. So they told me that I need to do the second one and I need to wait, and I panicked, and it was like all the memory of my mom, and I was like, my body, like my brain was like, I have cancer. So in order to calm myself, the only thing was I usually journal and I start to stitch. So when you start doing embroidery, your mind is only focused on the next step. So through embroidery, that's like my first tool for an anxiety, and when I am in this dark place of my mental health. But then I learned about the natural dye, and when I did a couple of workshops, and everybody, when I taught them, they said like, it seems like I'm in a meditation. It's like, exactly, because we don't use our hands as much, and our brain and our, you know, smells and texture and everything in one place.
It's so amazing. And I love the fact that you're kind of using these traditional women's, in parentheses, technologies as well. And they are technologies. I hate sometimes, you know, they're as well.
But that's the thing, like women, when they start making art, everybody like in the industry, this is a craft, this is not an art. They even like diminish these kind of techniques as a craft, and that's why I'm taking them back. And no, it's not a craft. It is an art. It is a representation. It's an idea that went through a fabric that sometimes the fabric can remind you of your own skin.
It is amazing, and yeah, you really do. I love the blend of the kind of science and technology of the dye with this high art, with this fine art that you produce, right? And I think it's I'm sure it's very inspiring for everyone in the audience today. Have you got any more slides you'd like to show us, or shall we have a bit of a discussion?
No, we can go to the discussions.
Fantastic.
I'm all yours.
That sounds wonderful. You've got, oh my goodness, we've got so many good questions, literally. I'm not even sure where to start. So
Becky,
I think...
Becky, can we get Musata to ask her questions?
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Of course, Musata, would you like to ask your questions? I'm terribly sorry. Yeah. Is Musata speaking, or?
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, hello. Wonderful. Right, I'll be quiet.
Hi. So I'm currently writing an article on female identity and art for my multimedia project. And basically, I went through your work, and one of my questions was, there's this beauty and wholesomeness in seeing female identity being represented through art. So I just wanted to know that, has it always been your intention to use art to create social change within women, or is it something that happened along the way?
So I use art to understand myself, and like my first project is all about understanding the experiences that I went through and the struggles. Like in our culture, it's just like, just suck it up and that's it. No mean no. It's like there is a system within families that you cannot, you know, the father, the mother, then grandpa. So there's things that limit you, and I never managed to speak up. So when I started doing these works, a lot of women start to relate to it, and I start to understand it's not only a personal experience; it's an experience, like it's a shared experience. I'm talking not about me, about women. So through my experience, I found my purpose, you can say. Like, I didn't choose to be an activist, but I'm kind of a person, like, if you see something, you say something. And if there's something is wrong, I will speak up, because I have, like, even though my family, I know that I always put my family into situation, but I still have their love. even we disagree, so I can't do it. I know there's a lot of women in their houses. Sadly, the system in Kuwait doesn't save women, like family violence, sexual, like rapes within families. There's no shelters for these women, and the police, like, even if a woman is strong enough to call the police, they will not enter a house for a family matter. So in my society, I am lucky that I have a good family, and that's why I can do what I do, but I still need to fight. So to answer your question, it's something happened through the process. It wasn't the intention.
That's wonderful to hear. And then my second question would be, how has it been like being a woman in the art industry, considering there are a lot of men are kind of dominating the collections part of it? So how has it been like as a woman in this art industry?
That's a good question, because like my career shift, like my career was with the with Me Too movement, you know. So I'm kind of like, I did it like kind of the society, like that's, I'm talking about the Western society, like the Western society like suddenly start to look at us as women. So my struggle mostly is when I came back, and because of the topics that I am talking about, I disturb people. And they dismiss me, or they might say I'm vulgar. I heard like I hate men. I have issues with men. It's mostly these kind of, you know, projection, because they want to see something beautiful and happy. They want something like more commercial. So, but I don't care. I think I like, well, not I think, I don't care. I do what I do because I believe in it. And I'm always kind of a person that I'm always try to find a way to force people to listen to me, or opportunity where my goal is not, it's not about me and my ego, it's about my message being heard.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. I feel like in society nowadays, people try to silence the voices of women. So it's important for us women to rise above that and speak what we've got to say, no matter how society might look at that. So I think that's very great. And now take me to my last question. How would you say your identity and your self-growth has changed over the years compared to where you started?
I mean, I changed a lot. And sometimes, like, when I look back to myself, I don't recognize that person, and that confused me. But then I realized that this is the way how I was thinking in my 20s or my 30s. I'm in my 40s now. It's extremely different. And the way how I see life, it's not about being the same. It's about, like, everything in life change. Plants like grow, leaves are green, they turn to orange, and they leave. Everything is cycle. My identity changed, and I get confused, and I get sometimes like time where I don't know who I am. But within losing yourself, you find yourself. So I think human, they have two ways. It's either you want to sit and follow society rules, do the old checks, which I did in my 20s. I did the whole, good girl. I'm loud. I was like, I've been told, like, I need to silence myself. I need to look a certain way. I need to dress a certain way. My style is very, like, revealing. And I was in my bed for 10 days. I couldn't leave my bed with nothing. My life on paper were like perfect. I had like the greatest job in the age of 20 something. And no one knows what's happened. I didn't know what's happened, but because of these kind of darkness, it's like my body refused. My body's trying to tell me something. And I changed, and I thought, okay, I got what, like, I reached that point, but then I changed. So I think whenever you think you know yourself and find who you are, you know nothing. So, you know, I don't know who I will be in 5 years. I think my whole identity and the way how I see the world is different than how I see it now.
I think that's great. I think like as humans, we're always still exploring ourselves. I don't think you'll ever fully know who you are until the end, maybe. But thank you so much for having me. Maha, you're amazing. Your work is absolutely incredible. And thank you so much for letting me ask these questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure. So thank you. I would say. So, sorry, I'm just having some minor technological issues. So, isn't there? Oh, got it there. That's better. I think we've got time for maybe 1 or 2 questions before we go, and just a bit more feedback.
I can read one question there if you like. It says, Maha, you're an amazing artist. Please tell me your first struggle when you started your first shot. How do you work to overcome it? So this is about the technical aspect.
So is it about the technical aspect, or can you repeat the question?
Okay, it says, please tell me your first struggle when you started your first shot. How do you work to overcome it?
So I feel like I will speak about like not only the technical, it's more about the conceptual struggle, because the technical terms of like photography, you can learn it. It's very easy. It's there's everywhere, how to understand light, understand things, everything like mathematics. The problem is when you have something you want to say, but then you draw your you create your mood board, you create like the shoots, but then when you do it, something else come up. Meaning, I thought that I want to talk about something, but through the process, when I looked at the images, it said something else. So it's mostly about having time to reflect. It's not about just making a project or like having an idea and just photographed it. It's about research, looking at images, researching the topic that you're talking about, thinking about, like, try to journal, write your thoughts, why you're doing what you're doing, and then have a critique group around you. Because you do something and you want to say something, but sometimes the viewer will see it in a different way. So that's kind of where you can find the balance in making a project. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's so interesting. Thank you so much. Have we got time for some more questions?
Yes, we have.
Brilliant, amazing. That's ever so good to hear. So one of the questions that I thought was really interesting is from Kat. Do you think there's a difference between artists who find their style to become established and those who choose to find their voice? So this idea of kind of those who are find their style to become established, and then those who kind of find their voice. So I like the idea of finding voice, creating voice. So
can you repeat the question? Just I want to make sure I got it correctly.
do you feel that there is a difference between artists who find their style to become established and those who choose to find their voice? So kind of those who are saying something and those who are kind of depicting something or creating a style.
I feel like there is a difference. Like finding a style is just like by looking at an image, oh, this is Maha's work, this is Kat's work. I feel like finding the voice is the harder one, because finding a style is, with practice, with like shooting as much as you can, you find certain style and people start to identify with that style. Finding your voice is the harder one, because that's, you go inside, you go inward. Sometimes you go to dark places, sometimes you go to a memory, sometimes you go to something and try to take something very private and very vulnerable and very, you, and share it with the world. And that's the hardest one.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's a really interesting insight, actually. I think it's quite hard, isn't it, to kind of find that balance. And we've got some lovely comments here. Kat says, that's so beautiful, thank you. Jack says, there's something so comforting yet fearful about the uncertainty of identities. I like that idea, actually, the notion of kind of almost being scared of ourselves and kind of how do we conquer that as women. And I think really, you've done that really elegantly, kind of the way you depict womanhood. We've got another question here from Jack, just asking if your own sexuality has influenced your work, given kind of the socio-cultural context, heteronormativity. So kind of how do you feel heteronormativity fits into your work? If it does, maybe it doesn't. So
I think of course my sexuality affects my work, because I've been monitored within society that didn't allow me to explore my body. Within, if you're not married, then you are not supposed to do anything. You are not supposed even, to express or enjoy yourself or your body. It took me a journey, it was a journey for me to heal and to connect with my own body. And that's how the work comes, because whatever I feel, different people feel it in different situation. Let's talk about LGBT, let's talk about people who been had sexual assault. The body is very intimate, but there is a lot of scars and there's a lot of connection within human about that. So again, once you go inward, I mean, my journey was not easy, but I will not be here if I didn't do it. At certain time of my career, it was my work is so deep and dark, but I'm very bubbly and very happy. Then I came to realization, it's fine. I'm both. I'm that happy person, but everybody has this kind of darkness, or let's say being an activist, or just I want to speak up. I was like, you don't want to hear me, it's your problem, it's not my problem. There's something we need to talk about. God gave us the ability to talk and to create for a reason. I'm not a writer, but I make art.
It's amazing. It is absolutely brilliant. Where can we see you exhibiting? Because I want to see you in a gallery, literally. If it's in Europe, I'll be getting a flight, a train to Paris, and come and go and have a look in person. So,
yeah, inshallah. I had an exhibition last year in Kuwait, and it's a lot of work to when you are international. But inshallah, I would love to have a show in England, and maybe soon.
We would be very, very lucky to have you. It would be amazing.
Thank you.
So, and it's been just such a pleasure. You've been, I think, I know I shouldn't say this, but I think you're my favourite photographer I've interviewed.
Thank you so much. Thank you for saying this. It really means a lot to me.
Well,
like
I mean
this,
that.
you know, when you're an artist, when you're a photographer, you do everything alone. I create, I make, I am the PR, I am the photographer, I create the concept, and I'm the one who will be sending tons of emails to get art residency or grants, and you get a lot of rejections, and you need to deal with that. You know, that's part of the process. So sometimes within all these things, you lose yourself, and you know, it's like, why I'm doing this. So what you said means a lot to me. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It has been our honour to have you here, and I can't wait to see what you do next. And I hope you get a residency over here. Come to the UK.
Okay, I need to apply more in UK. Yeah, I will do that. I will do that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to hang us back to Kesra now. But oh my goodness, it has been such a pleasure. I think everybody agrees. I hope you get to read the comments after our chat, because they really do reflect how good you are.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, mashallah. I really, really enjoyed it, Maha. Well done for your achievement and for your photography, mashallah. And thank you so much for your brilliant hosting as well, as always, Becky. Thank you also to Musata for joining us as well. So we had a wonderful time together, and now is the end of our session. Thank you finally to our amazing attendees as well, who always join us, especially the regular ones. I really appreciate you giving us that time. But let me remind you, we've got 2 big walloping sessions coming up. My goodness. Remember, we still celebrate International Women Week. This one tomorrow is in conversation with Fatma Manji, the famous Channel 4 newsreader, broadcast author, talking to Simon from the Writers Guild, and that's at 2 o'clock. And then we have a terrific session with Afghani women artists. Can you believe we are providing platform for 4 amazing artists from Kabul joining us on Sunday to find out what is it like for them in the current environment, and they'll be showcasing their painting. And then there's another final one, a Bengali artist speaking to her about her work from Birmingham. So plenty of events coming up. The links are there in the chat if you want to quickly copy them, or you know where we are, get in touch. So thank you so much. Good evening, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.